a saw and a board and I'll cut it. I'll climb up a ladder with a hammer and a nail and I'll nail it. Well, we worked so hard to build a little house together.
My name is John Marston, and I'm sick and tired of doing chores all day. That's it. I'll just travel around the entire map and then also rank every region because I like doing that. Yeah, that'll work. Real quick, I just want to mention I made a Discord server. Link will be in the description if you're interested in joining. Oh yeah, like and sub if you enjoyed. All right, let's get back to the video. In last place, Sisika Penitentiary. All right, coming in last place, we have the smallest and technically inaccessible area on the map. It's going to be Sisika Penitentiary. Sisika is a small island off the east coast of Lemoyne where all the most dangerous criminals are housed and they're forced to do labor in the labor camps. It's basically comprised of the main prison building as well as several watchtowers and obviously fields of crops for the workers to do work on. The prison does have an interesting like pentagonal shape, but it's misaligned, so that looks really weird. Not quite sure why that's the case. We actually only get to visit Sisika in 2 different missions, Icarus and Friends, which is where we're in the hot air balloon scouting out the island, and then Visiting Hours, which is obviously when we break John Marston out of prison. And obviously he was originally in prison because of that Saint Denis bank robbery. Honestly, there is just not much to see here. It's a pretty small group of islands, and I think the main intrigue is because you aren't technically allowed to go here. So that's kind of interesting, I won't lie, but apart from that, once you take that level of mystery out, yeah, it's a pretty boring area. Up next, Blue Water Marsh. Blue Water Marsh, unsurprisingly, is marshlands, and it's just located north of Saint Denis. It is a pretty small area, but it's also extremely hostile. The wetlands are pretty hard to traverse, pretty annoying, filled with mud. Mangrove trees populate the muddy plains, slowing down any type of movement, even including horseback. There are boardwalks that were put up to get through, but the majority of Blue Water Marsh can't be accessed because there's not that many boardwalks. And of course, the main reason for its hostility is the amount of creatures that want to kill you, like alligators, snakes, coyotes, boars, and like probably even more. It really is a difficult place to traverse, but it also does reward exploration. It has a lot of hidden treasures found around the area in the sparsely located building. It's a great location if you're doing the ultra rare Duchesses and Other Animals side mission, which, oh wow, look at that. I made a video on that. A whole video. Yeah, you should go watch it. But yeah, if you're not doing that side mission, realistically, there's not the biggest need to be here. Next up, Rio Bravo. Similarly to our last location, Rio Bravo contains a very small population due to its extremely intense climate and hostile creatures. It features a large desert-like terrain with cacti and other small shrubbery sparsely located around. It also features large rock formations which are called buttes. Not sure if that's how you say it. B-U-T-T-E. And they're pretty cool, man. The only interesting POIs include the abandoned Plainview, Fort Mercer, and the train station Benedict Point. Honestly, it's just an extremely beautiful place. The barrenness of it, in my opinion, really adds a lot of atmosphere to the area, especially when the sun is setting or rising. But of course, on the contrary, that sparsity does make it so there's not that much to do. There's only a few small Easter eggs and hidden treasures to find, not as much as other locations. In my opinion though, it does play an extremely vital role in Red Dead Redemption 2 because it adds some scale to New Austin. It really makes it feel much bigger because of how barren it really is. It does fit the desert vibe, of course, so for that reason, it comes in where it does. Up next, Cumberland Forest. Cumberland Forest, like its name suggests, is a small carnivorous forest with a large mix of birch and pine trees, as well as some grasslands located near the center of the map. It does feature a variety of altitudes with valleys where the Dakota River is all the way down at sea level and mountains toppling over in the background. A large portion of Cumberland Forest, unfortunately, for some reason, is very sparsely populated by trees and kind of seems like grasslands. The area is literally named after the forest and most of it is not thick, dense forest. So I just don't get that. I don't like it for that reason. Some POIs include the Bacchus Bridge and Station, Firewood Rise, and the gang hideout 6 Point Cabin. Just due to its small size, there really isn't the most to do here. There's only 2 legendary animals to find, a few hidden treasures, and not any Easter eggs or anything super interesting. And for that reason, it comes in pretty low. Up next, Hennigan Stead. Henniganstead is the northeasternmost part of New Austin, and it pretty much serves as a connection point between New Austin and the rest of the map. The terrain itself is extremely diverse, featuring flat grasslands, waterfalls, marshes, and even swampland, as well as deserts and canyons in the east. And again, that is extremely unique because of its terrain, which combines all the other areas around it into one central point. So it's basically like a transitional period. It's very cool. The main POIs included are McFarland's Ranch, which at this point in the storyline, it's in its early development, which is kind of cool to visit, but it's not as interesting as it was in the original game, of course. Other notable locations include Thieves Landing, which is always pretty cool, Pikes Basin, Manteca Falls, and Stillwater Creek. It is a very diverse area while still maintaining quite a bit to do, and in that mix of having a little bit of everything comes together to make a really good spot. Next up, Cholla Springs. Cholla Springs is located at the center of New Austin. It's a large but desolate area filled with sparse shrubbery and open land. It is extremely crime-ridden and filled with gangs you'll often find riding around, and they will be hostile towards you. The main POI of Cholla Springs is Armadillo, a dilapidated town plagued with, well, the plague. All the residents are sick and they warn you to leave, and most of the businesses are closed down apart from the saloon. It's a far cry compared to its Red Dead Redemption counterpart, where it's doing obviously much better. It's not all just desert though, as Lake Don Julio supplies the area with water and also makes an extremely nice backdrop. Cholla Springs is an extremely big region, and due to that, it has surprisingly a lot of hidden treasures and Easter eggs scattered around, making it pretty rewarding and fun to explore. It's very similar to Rio Bravo in that way. It's very reminiscent of cowboy westerns, but it still does a better job because it takes the good parts from Rio Bravo, yet also adds a lot more things to do, which is exactly what I wanted from a place like New Austin. Next up, Grizzlies East. Grizzlies East is a mountainous biome filled with cliffs and valleys, dense forests, as well as more rare phenomenon like geysers at Colorado Springs. Due to its mountainous nature, it is pretty difficult to traverse, and it's filled with many dangerous predators like bears, wolves, coyotes, and snakes. It is also home to the Wapiti Indian Reservation, which at this point in the game has been destroyed, unfortunately. In my opinion, Grizzlies East handles the feeling of being alone in nature the best out of any region in the game. It's extremely isolated, but like I said, very calming at the same time, which a lot of other places in this game, you do feel alone, but you also feel like scared, like at Roanoke Ridge, for instance. It also contains a lot of really peculiar places like the Witch's Cauldron, the Giant's Hideout, the Strange Statues Cave, and the Meditating Monk, which shroud this place in a little bit of mystery. You can also find the Veteran's Homestead, which in my opinion, that's like top tier side missions in Red Dead. Love the Veteran, RIP. Overall though, the vibe of the area being like alone, isolated nature, as well as a sheer amount of mysteries and Easter eggs and kind of weird phenomenon you can stumble upon really make an extremely interesting place to explore. And that's why I'm so fond of this location and it comes in where it does. Up next, tall trees. The tall trees are a good example of how to make a barren forest biome actually interesting, unlike Cumberland Forest. The area is filled with, of course, tall trees, specifically pine, spruce, and fir trees. Already, the trees alone make the spot more interesting than Cumberland Forest. It features the lower Montana River, which is flowing through the Aurora Basin, which again, looks beautiful. Even though it does look super nice, the area is still pretty dangerous, and it's not just because of the predatory animals. Tall Trees has 4 different hideouts for the Skinner brothers, which are a nomadic gang who cares very little about money and more so just about killing and torturing people. Very cool stuff. On a lighter note though, there are plenty of cool POIs here, including the Trapper, Evelyn Miller's cabin, and the Manzanita Post. The area doesn't feature the most hidden treasure, but I don't think it's that big of a deal because the area is pretty small and it is pretty packed when you consider that. Up next, Grizzlies West. Grizzlies West, probably my personal favorite location. It's located at the top left of the map and it's mostly mountainous terrain, which is frozen year-round. I personally love snowy places in video games. Who can relate to that? But specifically in this game because it's just done so well. Most of Grizzlies West is not easily accessible, so exploring it is genuinely really fun because it's challenging. I'll never forget the first time I really explored the Grizzlies West without looking at the map, just trying to discover anything that I could find, and it was an experience that that genuinely still sticks with me to this day. Similarly to the Grizzlies East, it's absolutely packed with very interesting, peculiar, weird, mysterious things like the robot Easter egg, the rock carvings, all the fossils, and lots of unique hidden treasures. And who can forget the mining town Coulter, which serves as the camp in the first chapter. It's nostalgic, but also extremely eerie visiting after everyone's left. And also, who can forget Lake Isabella, where everyone got their first Arabian horse? I mean, that's such a nostalgic place. And of course, I can't make this without mentioning Planter's Balm, which is personally my favorite location in the entire game. It's so peaceful and nice. There's just no place else in the game like Grizzlies West. Maybe that's just because of the snow, but it's very unique and I absolutely love it. Up next, Roanoke Ridge. Roanoke Ridge is a mountainous and densely forested area located at the most northeastern part of the map. Roanoke Ridge is also extremely unique part of the map, as it features 3 different settlements while also feeling extremely secluded due to the density of the forests. Of course, the main settlement in Roanoke Ridge is Annesburg, a mining town located on the riverfront. Honestly, in my opinion, Annesburg is just not that interesting. It looks cool, I like the vibe of it, but there's just not anything really to do there. But the next spot I think is much better, and that's Van Horn, which is located just south of Annesburg, and it's also on the riverfront. Van Horn is a lawless and falling apart town, but it's so fun to go there and just mess with the citizens, and overall just have a pretty dirty time at a pretty dirty town. And of course, who can forget the smallest out of the 3 settlements, Butcher's Creek. Doing a few side missions reveals that the area's water supply has been tainted from the mines and has been poisoning the people, which is why they're all really crazy and weird. I really just like all the settlements that aren't named on the map. I feel like they're more low-key in that way, and that kind of just interests me. Similarly to the other locations that cover the north part of the map, it's absolutely filled with mysterious sightings and peculiar locations like Dover Hill, the Meteor House, the glowing pentagram, I mean seriously. And obviously, who can forget Beaver Hollow, the gang's hideout in Chapter 6. Notably, Roanoke Ridge is also home to the Murphy Broods, a savage gang whose only mission is to hunt down and torture and do just insane things to people. They alone are the reason why Roanoke Ridge is feared by the residents, and they add that eerie vibe of the area, knowing you can get ambushed by them pretty much at any time. It really is a clash because aesthetically the place is so beautiful, however it hides many dark and twisted secrets. Next up, Gaptooth Ridge. Gaptooth Ridge is my highest ranked place in New Austin, and I think it is just a combination of what all the other locations do, and it just puts it together in a better way. Of course, the terrain is extremely similar to Rio Bravo and Cholla Springs. It's a flat desert land, but also gets a little more mountainous and rocky the more west you get. Gaptooth Ridge is home to Tumbleweed, which is one of my personal favorite towns. It has that great cowboy feel, yet also being oddly welcoming, and there's plenty to do. Rathskeller Fork is the only other settlement in the area, and even though the inhabitants there will get hostile if you go there, it's still a pretty fun area to go to, and I really like the design of it. Gaptooth Ridge does also contain a couple more like one-off shacks to explore, as well as a few gang hideouts. There's not the most amount of Easter eggs slash hidden treasures to be found, but it's still fun to look for them. Overall though, Gaptooth Ridge just executes that cowboy aesthetic perfectly in my opinion, and that's why it beats out any other location from New Austin in the game. Next up, Great Plains. The Great Plains is a small, flat, and well, it's a pretty plain area. An important criteria that I have been using up until this point was the aesthetics of the nature itself. And when you look at this area, you're saying, well, it's just flatland, so it's not interesting. And yeah, I agree. However, this one is just carried by the POIs. Of course, the main one, Blackwater. It's one of, if not the best town in the entire game. It looks incredible. It's extremely practical. There's so much to do and so much time to have spent here. Blackwater is the second biggest town, and it's only behind Saint Denis. And even though it is pretty small in comparison to Saint Denis, it still feels much more impactful than any other town in the game, excluding Saint Denis, of course. And Beecher's Hope, which is John's farm, you build it throughout the epilogue. It serves as a home base when you finish the epilogue and for the rest of time. I'm someone who loves going back to Beecher's Hope after doing small missions and whatnot and treating it like a home base. And I love that it's right next to Blackwater as well. These two locations are good enough on their own to elevate a pretty boring plains biome to become one of the better regions in the rankings. There is also Quaker's Cove, as well as a couple Easter eggs and loot locations, but apart from that, it really is about Blackwater and Beecher's Hope. Next up, Bayou Nwa. Similarly to the Great Plains, Bayou Nwa's high ranking mostly has to do with its settlements rather than its nature aesthetic. It is of course comprised mainly of swamplands and marshes filled with mangrove trees growing from the swamp waters. All the trees are covered with moss and other growth, and the area remains somewhat tedious to traverse due to all the mud slowing you down and hostile creatures. The swamps do hide tons of secrets and Easter eggs waiting to be found, which reward exploration of players who are willing to take that risk. Of course, the area is filled with alligators, which often hide in the water and shrubbery, making it quite a dangerous place to traverse on foot. To the southwest, you can find Calico Hall, Prince & Co., and of course, Shady Belle. Bayou Nwa also hosts the settlement of La Grasse, which is a small settlement in the middle of the swamp, primarily focusing on catching crawfish. It's honestly a pretty cool area and it's extremely unique. The missions here where you have to go out and check the traps and obviously encounter the giant alligator are just amazing. But of course, the main reason that Bayou Nwa is high is because of Saint Denis. It's the largest and most civilized town in the entire game. It has narrow streets full of activities and life, so many different kinds of businesses to check out and explore. It will take hours and hours to go through every single street of Saint Denis. There is so much replayability here. Saint Denis is most people's favorite location on the map, and for pretty great reasons. It deserves to be this high. Third place, Big Valley. Big Valley, stay with me here guys. It's a big mountainous area covered in forest, just like, well, pretty much every other area on the map, but I'm telling you, this one is very different in a much better way. First, we have to start off with the capital town, Strawberry, which has to be one of my favorite areas on the map. It's a fair criticism to say that there's not the most to do here. It's not the most practical, and I agree with you. However, it more than makes up for it in terms of its aesthetics. It is absolutely beautiful. The nature element of Big Valley, in my opinion, has to be the best anywhere on the map, with the tall, skinny trees, the lakes, the rivers breaking everything up, the Rocky Mountains adding another layer of depth behind everything. Big Valley also by far has the most amount of Easter eggs and mysterious places and peculiar findings than any other region in the entire game. I'm literally just going to name a couple because there are so many, including the Devil's Cave, the Hermit Woman, the Obelisk, the pagan rituals, the faces in the trees, the crashed airship, the Cougar's Den, as well as many random events to run into. It's also home of Pronghorn Ranch, which if you watch my ranking every town video, you know I absolutely love this place. Other notable POIs include the Appleseed Timber Company, Fort Riggs, Hanging Dog Ranch, Lake Owanjila and the Dam, Rig Station, Distilled Shack, Wallace Station, and 2 different trapper locations. Big Valley looks absolutely incredible, as well as having so much to explore and discover makes it an excellent spot because it does both things that you want from a region extremely well. Second place, Scarlet Meadows. Scarlet Meadows mainly consists of gentle hills and ponds, being much greener in the north and a little bit swampier down in the southeast. One of the biggest standouts of Scarlet Meadows, and the reason for its name, is the red soil that it has specifically near Rhodes, which resembles certain parts of Southern America. Rhodes is the main settlement in Scarlet Meadows. It's a charming town with excellent architecture that really suits the red soil. But diving deeper, it seems to be divided by politics and racial tension after the Civil War. The town itself is loved by most and has quite a few amenities to explore, as well as being a major part of the story in the middle chapters. It's of course home to the Greys and Braithwaites, who've had a feud as long as time, which the gang gets extremely intertwined with, almost like Romeo and Juliet's story. Scarlet Meadows is the only location which is extremely important to the chapters that it's featured in, as you uncover more things about the area as you play the story, and you get to see the town for what it really is and see how the story unfolds. Other notable POIs include Pleasance, which is an abandoned settlement, Aberdeen Pig Farm, Catfish Jackson's, and of course, Clemens Point, which served as a camp for the gang, and it was a great camp. It's also home to one of the most notorious gangs, the Lemoyne Raiders, made from Confederate veterans and other disturbed young men who terrorized the area, making it quite a dangerous place to be, especially at night. There are a few secrets and Easter eggs to uncover, but much less than most areas. However, it definitely makes up for it in aesthetic as well as all the other settlements located here. First place, the Heartlands. Say what you want about nostalgia bias or whatever, but the Heartlands, in my opinion, easily got to come in at number 1. Of course, it features the best town in the game, Valentine, and the best camp in the game, Horseshoe Overlook. Valentine is a livestock town with a simple, classic Western layout and many amenities. It also features Emerald Ranch, a fun place to visit, and also contains a fence to sell valuables. Other notable POIs include the Downs Ranch, Emerald Station, Flatneck Station, the oil fields, Lymphony, and the trading post. It has so many Easter eggs, as well as many random events and hidden treasures to find located around the area, so it rewards exploration. The terrain is mostly comprised of rolling hills and plains with a few rocky hills and cliffs, and is absolutely jam-packed with wildlife. It's a fair argument to say that the Heartlands aren't the most interesting when it comes to its terrain, but it really shines due to its settlements, POIs, and meaning in the story. And for that reason, it comes in at the top of our rankings. All right, and that's gonna wrap up today's video. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below if you agree with my rankings and what your rankings would be. Anyways, thanks for watching. Bye.